Good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Kwan. I'm the Member of Parliament for Vancouver East and the NDP critic for Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship. I'd like to first acknowledge the territories to which we stand, and I'd like to acknowledge the Algonquin, Anishinaabe First Nations. I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you, to the media, for coming to the press conference today. And also particularly, I'd like to acknowledge the former Afghan interpreters for being here with me today. And I have two of them here in person with me at the press gallery here in Ottawa. And then I have a couple of others who are on Zoom and to which you will be able to see on the Zoom link here. Let me first tell you why we're here. As you'll recall, that the Canadian government was slow in getting evacuation operation in Afghanistan. As well, they were the first to actually pull out of Afghanistan. Consequently, the people, the interpreters and their collaborators who helped the Canadian military were left behind. They were the people who helped our Canadian military while they were abroad on the missions. By doing that, they put their lives in danger and they put their families' lives in danger. In fact, the interpreters have told me that in some of those operations, the Taliban recognized them and said pointedly to them that they will come after them and kill them if they should retake power. That is the reality to which they face. The Canadian government said they are doing everything they can to help bring them to safety. Now, I have to tell you this. The former interpreters worked day and night to bring their voice forward, to call on the government to bring in special immigration measures, not just for themselves, but for their extended family members as well. And after much lobbying, and even through a hunger strike, they were able to get the government to finally announce that they would bring in a special immigration measure for their extended families. That was back in September. The government made that announcement in December 9th. They put that announcement in operation. In the meantime, these interpreters met with government officials, including the Minister of Immigration, over 25 times to inform them on a regular basis of what needs to be done, how to do it, to provide their advice and the information. They were promised that they would bring their family members here to Canada within weeks. It has now been almost 3 months since they've submitted their applications following the government's instructions. Over 300 families have submitted their applications. Not one family member has made it to Canada with this group. And in fact, in December, the government said, oh, we're going to get onto it, we're going to move on this. Now, those who were able to get their applications in December, they were able to get a file number. That's about 35% of the 300 families. The rest of them, where they submitted their application in January, they have yet to receive a file number. Zero acknowledgement from IRCC with their situation. Meanwhile, their loved ones are fleeing from house to house, street to street, province to province in hiding, fearing that any moment that the Taliban will come after them, will find them and kill them. That is their reality each and every day. As the government continue to dawdle on this file, lives are at risk. As I speak to you today, their lives could be at risk. And I have to ask this question. What is going on with the government? What is going on with the Ministry of Immigration? Why is it that these family members cannot get their application processed so that they can rejoin their loved ones here in Canada? How come they cannot get to safety after all the promises and the immigration streams put in place, that immigration does not seem to have the wherewithal to process their applications? How is it even possible that they've waited 3 months and that they cannot even get a file number? As one interpreter said to me, if the government had processed one case a day, all their family members would be here by now. I mean, honestly, how is this possible that we're allowing this to happen? Just yesterday, the Minister of Immigration said in the House of Commons that he will not rest until he gets all the family members here. Well, I will say this to the minister: time is of the essence. And please remember, every minute work is not being done is every minute that's added to which the lives of these family members are put at further risk. Finally, I'd like to close with this. The Canadian government had brought in immigration measures for Ukraine, and I wholeheartedly support them. Absolutely. The Canadian government needs to do everything we can to support Ukraine during this very difficult time. But I'm also calling on the Minister of Immigration and the Prime Minister to put in place those special immigration measures for Afghans as well. They deserve no less. People who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing persecution, who are fleeing conflict, the crisis to which they face is the same, whether it's in Ukraine or in Afghanistan or in Rohingya, in Yemen, in Hong Kong. It is the same. And we need to apply the principle of equity to all of those who are fleeing. So I'm calling on the government to apply those special immigration measures to Afghans and the others. And finally, I'm calling on the government to make a change to their immigration measures for Afghans. Allow for Afghans to make their application to flee the Taliban, even if they're in Afghanistan. Do not require it so that they must be in a third country. So with that, my friends, I am going to now cede the floor to our interpreter friends. First, I would like to call up Ghulam Fazi, who is from Ottawa, and he's going to share with you his story and the process to which he has embarked on with the government.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you everyone is here. And we thank all Canadians, public, and the government who support us. Let me introduce we're the former Afghan interpreters, about 300 families or 300 people in Canada, and we are Canadian citizens. And I also call ourselves proud veterans who supported Canadian Armed Forces mission in Afghanistan in Kandahar. So we were the people Taliban called us, the eyes and the ears of Canadian Armed Forces. With a small little story that we went to a peace patrol with my Canadian captain in a district of Kandahar province where there were the Taliban prisons in the middle of night at 1 a.m. So we continued this pit patrols for about half an hour where there was the mosque and my captain was not very familiar with the culture and he was new in his route and he was trying to go and rest there and I stopped him. I told him, we do not want to go to the mosque with our shoes or boots and with our uniforms. And he asked me, why, Ghulam Faizi? Can you explain it to me? I told him, if we walk into that mosque with our boots, it means we disrespect the mosque, so we jeopardize our mission has been going on here, and we supported the society, the community, and we have a good relationship. So he personally thanked me, and he told me if you were not here, I would have walked into that mosque, and I definitely would jeopardize the mission we had it here. So that is who we are. And I also want to tell you one little story more. One of our very close friends, that he was working with us in Camp Nathan Smith in Kandahar. So they went out on a mission. So unfortunately, their car hit by an ID explosion. He lost both of his legs. He lives in the United States now. So these are our stories. I can continue this for days. So I'm coming to the problem that we are facing now. We created Taliban our enemies by working and supporting the Canadian military mission in Kandahar and in entire Afghanistan. And I'm proud to be a veteran and a former Canadian Afghan interpreter, and I loved my job, and I'm very proud to be a Canadian citizen now. However, that left our extended families, which we call parents and siblings, at very risk. It is because the same Taliban that we went after them with the Canadian forces, we searched their houses, and we faced a lot of incidents that we interrogated them, and we were the eyes and the ears of the Canadian military, and we asked those questions, translated those questions, and they told us one day we will get back to the power, and remember, none of your family members we will go after you guys. You guys cannot kill every Taliban in Afghanistan. So these are the stories. So when Canada announced their immigration process, special immigration process, SIM program for the Afghan interpreters and anyone who supported Canadian mission in Afghanistan back in July, close to August, one of the journalists asked the former immigration minister, what are you guys thinking, and what about the former Afghan interpreter extended families if they have a problem? And I'm pretty sure it's still in YouTube. You guys can see and search it. Himself, he said that they can call my office and email us. We will bring their families as well. And we believed it. And we said, of course, he will do everything for our family as well. We start emailing, calling his office. The IP address that was coming from Ottawa or Canada or from the Canadian citizen former Afghan interpreters left without answers. So the Taliban took over the country in Afghanistan, and we finally had to come together a self-organized group of Afghan former Canadian interpreters, and we decided to go on a hunger strike because nobody in the government answered to our problems. In September, when we launched this hunger strike at Parliament Hill, the former chief of staff of the cabinet for immigration, Mike Jones, reached out to us and he apologized himself and he promised us if it is the time for us, we are very busy with the election. If you guys stop this protest from tomorrow, I promised you I will do everything in my power and the cabinet power, and we will bring and save your families and your parents and siblings. And we believed it again. And we start this weekly or after 1 or 2 weeks meeting with him and his staff. So finally, as Jenny stated, they opened this special measure public policy for the extended families of the Afghan farmer interpreters in December 9th, 2001. So then we had a chance to meet Honorable Minister Sean Fraser himself, and he told us this very one thing. I quote him: I have the power in Canada and I control all the paperwork. Once you send your application and submit your applications, we will process them within 2 weeks, the max. And however, I will not control and I don't control the airports in Afghanistan, and we do not recognize Taliban as a legit government, and we might have some problems evacuating your families. However, your families will use the same route as we already using for the same applicants we started in July. And we told him that is a very good direction and a step forward. We're very happy with that. We start sending our applications to intake office in Sydney, in Canada. All those applications have been received in the beginning of, like, after December 9th to January 8th or 9th. They receive a case numbers. However, after 10th of January, we have seen zero movement in our file. That is one of the problem. More than 60% of the Afghan interpreters families do not have a confirmation. They do not have an email from IRCC whether their application has missing some documents or their application not eligible, and they do not have a GNUSA numbers, which all the Afghan interpreters are worried about their families, and they don't know what will happen to their applications. And we continue weekly meetings with the staff of IRCC, and we bring all the problems that we have. For example, one of the problems we have and still have it is getting family passport for everybody from the Taliban current regime. When you go to Taliban current regime and ask for the passport, a family passport for every person, the first question they ask you, why do you need a family passport? Where do you plan escaping? Who did you work for? And who did your family work for? And they start interrogating you and they start following on this one. And we brought this problem to IRCC staff, and they said, no, we don't need you to get a passport. You can come to Canada without passport. And we thought that is a very good and positive news. And we asked IRCC that the minister said himself in the news, if an applicant can make it to a third country like Pakistan, India, and the regional countries, we will make sure to bring that person to Canada, and she does not have to return to Afghanistan to take the same sort of problems again. And we asked RCC staff that we don't have passport, but however, some of the families can make it to Pakistan with their national ID, Tazkira. Would you guys be able to evacuate our families afterwards if we send them to Pakistan. They said, no, 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 no. We say, why? They say, we cannot control Pakistan, and Pakistan will not let you to exit when you go there on your national ID without having a legit passport and a visa on it. And we told them, this is the problem we already discussed weeks and weeks, and you guys agreed on this, that you guys do not want to send our families to face the risk. And now you're telling us you guys cannot evacuate our families once they make it to Pakistan. And they bring all these problems. Yeah, Pakistan is a sovereign country. We cannot command them, and you guys cannot be able to make it out of Pakistan if you don't have a legit passport and Afghan and Pakistani visa. And I told them, I understand that you do not recognize Taliban as a legit government, and I understand you guys do not have a people, Canadian staff underground in Afghanistan to help our family evacuations. And I told them, however, I understand Pakistan is a sovereign country and Canada recognized Pakistan as an international allies. And I'm sure if the Minister of Immigration wants this, can discuss with Pakistan to issue us a single travel documents, which was issued before by the Pakistani government, and our families can travel to Pakistan on that one document. They say we are working on it, and it has been 7 months tomorrow that the last soldier of NATO left Afghanistan. However, zero extended family of the Afghan interpreters made it to Canada until today, under the current policy, which is for the Afghan farmer interpreters. And we have problems in Afghanistan getting all the documents that are being required by RCC, even though they told us if you don't have any particular documents such as Afghan Tazkira, passport, or marriage certificate, or birth certificate, you can write to RCC a very detailed information that we do not have these particular documents. And if we go to the Taliban, which is the current regime, we will jeopardize ourselves and our families, and we will accept that. And we did write and print hundreds of papers. Our package was that heavy. I don't remember how many hundreds pages I sent for my family. And we explained every legit reasons about the documents that we did not have and we cannot get it. Unfortunately, after 3 months, they're sending emails back to the ones who has case numbers. If you have a Tazkira, if you have a marriage certificate, if you have a passport, please resubmit it. These emails do not come only from Intake Office Sydney. However, these emails also come from IRCC branch Abu Dhabi. Now we're confused. Everything being accepted, and we did whatever IRCC asked us. And why should an officer from IRCC send us the same questions after 3 months and asking for the same documents that we did not have 3 months ago? I don't understand why they don't realize Afghanistan is still under the Taliban. It's not being changed. Why you would ask us about the same document? That is one issue. The second, we don't have case numbers for 65 plus Afghan interpreters' families yet. And we don't know whether they will get one, whether they will come into the system, or they will be left out. Another problem, 10 to 11 families who had Afghan passport, that includes half of my family. We bought them Pakistani visa in the black market. A visa per Pakistan will cost you 300 plus US dollars, and it is only you can stay on that visa in Pakistan for 30 days. 10 to 11 families made it to Pakistan, Islamabad, and we collected the list and we shared with IRCC staff who we talk to every Monday. And we asked them, please provide these 10 families of the extended families of Afghan interpreters accommodation in IOM in Islamabad. Not only they did not provide them any accommodations, they also ignored the emails they are kept sending to Islamabad IRCC branch, High Commission of Canada in Islamabad. They do not answer the emails that comes from the extended families members in Islamabad, and they're being ignored. That is another problem we have. The biggest challenge that we still face in Afghanistan, our families are hiding, and our families lost their jobs. Our families are on the move, one province to another, one house to another, and my personal family left our property, left our jobs, and I'm the only one supporting them. I'm not a rich man. I don't have a lot of money. That's why half of my family left in Afghanistan, because I did not have enough money to buy everybody a Pakistani visa and afford their accommodation in Pakistan and afford their food in Pakistan. I don't know for how long it will take till IRCC reach out to them. We have very unfortunately incidents in our group members. Some of our family members we lost to this long process. A good example is here, my colleague, Zahejan. He will tell you guys his story. And we have more of this story. So the more we stay, the longer we stay and wait this process, I will guarantee we will lose our loved ones. We lost our loved ones, and it will continue. And Taliban, I will make the last point before I leave the mic for my colleague. The Taliban recently stopped BBC, VOA television, and all those local media who report on human rights, women's rights, and the incidents Taliban created problems for. So there's no international media can report on the incidents that is happening. And Taliban is searching house by house, and our colleagues, our friends, our families are burning their documents. I have a small clip. A friend is burning his Canadian certificates, his Canadian pictures, his Canadian credentials. So after that, he will be no one. Without documents, you cannot prove yourself. Who did you work for? I have a small clip. I'll send it to you because of the time. Otherwise, I would show you too. Thank you, everyone, and for the opportunity. And thank you.
Just as a reminder, we have 15 minutes left, and I have 3 journalists who would like to ask questions.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe what I'll do is I'll ask the next speakers to keep their comments to a minute, and so then we'll have time for the journalists. So next I'll ask Saifullah Mohammed Saeed to come forward. So 1 minute.
Thank you, Jenny, and everyone. My name is Zahid. I've come from Calgary. I worked with Canadian Forces from 2006 to 2012 and moved here to Canada in 2012. The reason we are so frustrated and asking the immigration to expedite our process is that our families' lives are on risk. They are on the move. We have been moving them around from province to province, from house to house. There are families that they are not in contact with their own family members here in Calgary, like in Canada, for months. So we urge the government and the IRCC to expedite this process and bring our family members before it's too late, because we cannot afford to lose more members. As my father was killed in 2013, and my two brothers have been missing since Taliban have taken over the country. And fortunately or luckily, one of my brother, he made it to Turkey. He was smuggled and almost died on the way, and he's still hiding from Turkish police because he cannot go to the Turkish police that, okay, I have come from Afghanistan, because he will be sent back to Afghanistan, where he might get killed. We understand that the IRCC has so much to do, so much more things to do, but meanwhile, they should not forget Afghanistan, and they should keep their promises, the promises that they made it seven months ago. We have so much to talk about, but because of the time, we cannot continue. So if there are any questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Zoom and ask Hamidullah Amir Khan to tell his story, and we have 1 minute.
Thank you so much for the time. I wish we had more time because some of the stuff, the challenges here are significant, but I'll do my best. I'm law-abiding Canadian citizens. We came here 10 years ago as allies of the Canadian Armed Forces, and we have contributed to our Canadian society in every field and every way possible, with either healthcare, law enforcement, construction industry, services, and all that. Our families are in risk due to the fact that of our enduring relationship with the Canadian Armed Forces. And as my colleague earlier mentioned, that we identify as former interpreters, like veterans, and that should be explanatory in itself. Our process started 7 months ago when we first got in touch with the former minister at IRCC, and he promised us that your families will be able to come to Canada as soon as possible, no problem. And then obviously we did our own hunger strike. Now with the new honorable minister at IRCC, Mr. Sean Fraser, he promised us that the first quarter of 2022 we'll be able to see our families arriving into Canada. And as of right now, we have 65% of our people with no file numbers, let alone all the other stuff that will follow through. Now, my request to all Canadians, especially the public, to please raise this issue with your members of parliament, with your lawmakers, with your media, to put pressure on IRCC to evacuate our families and bring them to Canada as soon as possible to live in a happy and peaceful society. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to ask Ahmad Shai Saeed to say a few words, and he's also on Zoom.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate this opportunity. We wish we had enough time because of law for the public, to the government, to Prime Minister, and to the Minister of Immigration. But my colleagues explained a little bit of that. I'm very interested that we have another conference soon to explain everything. But right here, I just mentioned 3 problems that we call the government. I call the administration of Justin Trudeau. I call the federal government. I call the Honorable Sean Fraser, the immigration and the IRCC Minister. The first thing, they have to accelerate this process. They have to speed up this process, and they have to assign more G number and UCI number for the 60% remaining of our group. Second, they have to bring and find the safe pathways for our families. The Canadian government, the Justin Trudeau's administration, the federal government needs to work with their international leverage allies to find the safe pathways for our families to evacuate from Afghanistan right now, because it's too late and we cannot wait more than that. Like my colleague said, we are losing our beloved ones. The third one, we have handful of families in Pakistan that their Pakistani visa are expired. They are house arrested. They cannot go outside. I call the government, I call the IRCC to manage the safe pathways, issue the visa for them to evacuate them from Pakistan. This is the three demands that I ask from the government, the Honorable Prime Minister, and the Honorable Sean Fraser, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to focus on these big 3 points. Issue the UCING numbers, save the find pathways for our Afghan families in Afghanistan, and find the safe pathways and get the process done for the families that they are waiting in Pakistan from last 2-3 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, I'm going to open the floor for questions.
We will take questions in the room first, and then on Zoom, you may use your hand to ask a question.
Kevin Gallagher with CTV National News. It seems that a big part of the issue here is that people that are coming from Afghanistan to Pakistan or other countries, there's a difficulty getting documents. And as Ghulam said, well, this is something that the Canadian government was sort of advocating to the family members of former interpreters that, hey, go to a third country. I suppose, you know, is this, it sounds like the interpreters are saying their families have been misled by the directions of the Canadian government. And I just want to say, ask, you know, what is the reaction for Ghulam, for other interpreters? I wouldn't mind getting your comments on that. Saeed as well. You know, what reaction do your family members have if you can talk to them when they find out that what their initial advice was is now not working to get them to Canada?
2 days ago, I was on phone with my brother who is in Islamabad, and he told me we have done our biometrics for Canada 2 months ago, and you submitted every application they asked for. It is something they're just playing with us, and we will be hiding in Pakistan forever, or we have to return to Afghanistan. I say, if you return to Afghanistan, you risk your life. I do not want that, and I already spent money to brought you to Islamabad. And he told me, do you really trust the Canadian government who promised you? And I had no answer for that. So our families is getting confused, and they're confused because the promises being made to them is not working now. And we don't know for how long it will continue. I will add one more point. Some 3 to 5 families of our Afghan interpreters' families left Afghanistan before 22nd of July due to the high risk to their lives. And some of them are living in Turkey or India. IRCC said they are not eligible under this policy, and we keep pushing this. They do not have a legit or legal status in a third country, and they will be deported any day back to Afghanistan. They said no. Why they left Afghanistan before 22nd of July? And we telling them, human created this policy. They say yes. We say you guys can squeeze this 4 or 5 families. We have a number less than 5,000 IRCC willingly accepted from our families. And we tell them it is inside our families. They will not go above that. However, they are not willing to do what they have been promised with us. Thank you.
Just want to try and ask a follow-up question for Jenny. This sort of goes to what Ahmed Saeed was saying at the end of his comments. He sort of made some specific requests that he'd like to see the Canadian government do. But right now, realistically, what does the Canadian government need to do to rectify the situation? I hear, they need to get the proper documents. They need to move on the files. What has gone wrong with the promises that were made to get everyone in this situation to this point?
The Canadian government has failed Afghan families. That's the truth. They've failed Afghan interpreters and their extended families. They promised that they would process their applications expeditiously, and they haven't. The first thing they need to do is to issue the file numbers. Stop the chaos within IRCC, asking for documents that they have already indicated that they already sent or that they won't be able to access. As we know, the risk to which the families face in Afghanistan is severe. Some of them are burning their documents because if the Taliban finds them, they would be killed. That is their reality right now. The government can immediately issue single travel journey documents to all these extended family members, as they are doing for Ukrainians. There is no good reason why they can't issue that. And stop telling them contradictory information. Stop telling them to stay in Afghanistan, go to a third country, and then tell them that we can't help you. It is not good enough. The Canadian government needs to recognize this, that the interpreters and their families helped us, our own military, when we needed them the most. And now they need us. These are veterans and veterans' families. Treat them with honor, treat them with respect, treat them with the urgency that this situation demands. Get on with it. No more nice words to say that you would do this and expedite the processing within 2 weeks. It's been months now, and people's lives hang in the balance.
Next question in the room.
Thanks. Hi, Rafi Bujikani, CBC News. To any of the interpreters who wish to speak to this, first of all, thank you for sharing your stories. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to some families in Islamabad of Afghan interpreters or other employees of the Canadian government trying to come here, and then speaking to the Union of Employees representing IRCC, I asked about the seeming discrepancy between how the crisis in Ukraine is being treated versus the crisis in Afghanistan. And I was told that Afghan refugee applicants are considered a higher security risk, and that could explain some of the delays in processing. And when I ran this by the minister, he didn't deny it. He said that is the case. I'm wondering if any of you can tell me how this makes you feel.
So it's unfortunately, as an Afghan farmer interprets and a Canadian citizens, my family is escaping of the government of Taliban or the regime of Taliban. And here the Canadian immigration minister says we have high security issues or processing. However, nothing is important for me as Canadian, as Canada's safety as first. I do not want one bad person to come to Canada and jeopardize the security of myself, my Canadians, my children here, and my partner. But there is a way, there is a solution for this. We have been asking IRCC, instead of we are running out of Taliban and losing our loved ones, evacuate our families to Islamabad and give us accommodation or any other third country in the region, and take your time, months, process our applications. If for any reasons somebody does not pass the security for Canada, please don't bring that person. Instead of we are waiting in Afghanistan and running out of Taliban, we are risking our families' lives. So there is always a solution. However, they do not agree and any solution we provided to them. Thank you.
I just want to add to that, actually. What the Canadian government can do, of course, is to bring these family members here. And if all the documentation is not completed, biometrics is not done, they can do it while they're here safely in Canada. And to make sure that all of that work and all of the checks is done before before they leave, sorry, I should say, the government can actually do all that checking here. And then once that checking is processed, then they can actually move forward with rejoining their family members. That's what the Canadian government can do. And the Canadian government, by the way, can do biometrics here in Canada. But right now, first and foremost, the most urgent thing that the government needs to do is to get these family members to safety. That's what they need to do. And if they don't, and they continue with this path, people will die. Let's just be clear about that, because their lives are at risk every single moment that we don't act. I'd like to actually, are there other questions from the media?
I did have a follow-up for you.
Yes.
I was wondering, this issue has been going on for a few months now, and I know your office has been in touch with journalists about it before. You seem to be making a really big push today, though. Is there some kind of turning point that has caused you to come up more strongly publicly about this today?
I think that the stories of the family says it all. And they will be holding a hunger strike on tomorrow. This will be the 7th month to which they have waited since they've met with the government to do this. And the reality is this: every life is sacred. And our government needs to act as such. Treat these former veterans who helped our military while they were abroad and saved their lives, I would say, with their help. And now they need us more than ever, and they're desperate. And the government is not there. So I am acting with urgency to call on the government, please do what you promised.
If there's any questions on Zoom, please use the raise hand function now.
If there are no questions on Zoom, I'm just going to ask, is there a question on Zoom? No. I'm going to ask our interpreter here to come forward and just to say a final comment.
Just wanted to add that it seems like we have been lied to from the day one. When we held up our hunger strike in September, we were told, okay, once we open up this process, you will submit your applications. We will try to keep the pages, the forums to minimum, and it should take from 24 to 72 hours of your application's arrival to get a G number or UCI number assigned to that file. And it's been almost 5 months, that 65% of our members or of our interpreters have not received any UCI numbers and G numbers. So it clearly, we can clearly see that we have been lied to. So that's why we have arranged another hunger strike tomorrow to push this, because we cannot afford to lose more of our family members. It's not just me who lost a family member or afraid of losing family member. Mr. Hamid, who is on the Zoom, he also has lost his brother. There are like 5 or 6 of my friends that I know that they have lost their family members. My friend's sister was killed. So because the media is so restricted in Afghanistan, that's why we do not hear them on the media, but they go house to house looking for those people. I had some documents left in Afghanistan, and my mom burned all of them because, she could not carry them from province to province and, to be targeted. So that's why I ask the local people, to support us in this cause, to ask the government to expedite this process. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today.
Thank you all very much.